Well, good afternoon. This is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're in fine fettle. We just had another fine October day. And I mentioned I was going to make a quick video about the Bank of International Settlements and the money system. And I'm going to flip over in a second and I'm going to link this page below. This is the Board of Directors for the Bank of International Settlements. Now, the Bank of International Settlements is basically the central bank of central bankers, located in Basel, Switzerland. It has been basically dominating the whole monetary scene for decades now. And what you will see, what you will notice as we go through all of the Board of Directors, well, I won't go through all of them, but like I say, I'll leave the link below, and I'm sure that many of my listeners already know this information, but I just thought I would, let's say, link it up, and then you can use it to, when you're talking to your friends who don't know who or what the Bank of International Settlements is. So the BIS basically sets policy, monetary policy, and all of the Board of Directors are the heads of the banks in their various country. So for Canada here, Tiff Macklem is there, head of the Bank of Canada, the Chancellor of the Exchequer from England, the European Central Bank. Anyway, as I will show you, as you will see, this is all around the world. So this high interest rate policy is not a surprise. It's a coordinated event, and they all knew exactly what was going to happen when they did so. Now, for decades, we have been pursuing a low interest rate policy. And actually, here is a clip of Tiff Macklem, and he is telling Canadians not 2 years ago to borrow till their backs caved in, because interest rates were going to stay low for as far into the distant future as he could see.
Interest rates are very low, and they're going to be there for a long time. We recognize that Canadian businesses are facing an unusual amount of uncertainty. And so we have been unusually clear about the future path for interest rates. If you've got a mortgage, or if you're considering to make a major purchase, or you're a business and you're considering making an investment, you can be confident that interest rates will be low for a long time. Low interest rates make spending and investment more affordable, and spending and investment will support the recovery. That would be our message to Canadians.
And in fact, we were toying with the idea of going to negative interest rates, and some countries in Europe did actually, Spain for one, did enter negative rate territory. This is where if you took out a mortgage, actually at the end of the year, the bank paid you a little bonus. I mean, how weird is that? And also, of course, if you invested money, you were losing. You were investing at a loss, and the reason for this was they said that the loss that you would suffer with a negative interest rate would be less than you would suffer by inflation. Okay, so I don't know what kind of excuse that is. So these people, these financial heads of banks, these people study history, and they knew that when they turned around their interest rate policy so quickly and so harshly, that they were going to throw every government, every borrower, every mortgagee, every municipality, every province under the bus. I just read today in the paper that the Cabinet Budgetary Office is warning of stagflation coming ahead because of the higher rates that governments are having to pay back on the interest on their loans. So the government is actually in the same situation that every household that holds the mortgages, they are all of a sudden finding they're going really tough. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was a planned event. They knew. These people study money, and this is why it's amazing. After Keynesian economics for so many years, which I'm not even sure, we're still working on this, but MMT, modern monetary theory, is not the answer, I can assure you. And I can explain modern monetary theory in 5 seconds flat. It basically means if you run out of money, print more and spend more. and there will be no effect. And as Justin Trudeau famously said, oh, well, the budget's going to balance itself. Well, I think they've forgotten the lessons of Zimbabwe and the Weimar Republic, who printed themselves into oblivion, and we have all seen the result. And, you just cannot pay off debt with debt. Anyway, let's just flip over for 2 seconds and I'll show you how this page works. I'm sure that most of you already know this, but just as proof positive that yes, every board of director on the Bank of International Settlements knows every other board member on the Bank of International Settlements, and they are involved in their country. So no country, not one country, is acting independently. Let's pop over and watch that and come back and I'll do a very quick wrap up. Okie dokie, here we go. Okay, so this is the Bank of International Settlements website, Board of Directors, Governance and Organisation. The board is responsible for determining the strategic and policy directions of the Bank of International Settlements, supervising BIS management and fulfilling the specific tasks given to it by the bank's statutes. It meets at least 6 times a year. Okay, so this is the Board of Directors for the Bank of International Settlements. Countries represented are London, Brazil, India in Mumbai, Zurich in Switzerland, Amsterdam in Holland, Frankfurt, Ottawa in Canada, Beijing, China, Washington, Seoul. See, even Beijing is in on this whole deal. Mexico, Stockholm, Tokyo, Rome, New York, Brussels. So if you take any of these names and just highlight them, copy and paste and do a search for that name, here we'll take the chair, Francois Villeroy de Galou. Francois Villeroy de Galou is a French civil servant and banker serving as the governor of the Bank of France. Oh, fancy that. Here is our own Tiff Macklem, was appointed governor of the Bank of Canada effective June 3rd. Here we have Pierre Wunsch, and he is the current governor of the National Bank of Belgium since 2019. Oh, how very surprising. And here is the intimidating building itself. This is where all of the decisions are made. And if you highlight any of the names on the list of the Board of Directors, you will find that they are head of the central banks in each of the individual countries. Oh, and who's this we've got here? Christine Lagarde, President of the European Central Bank. And of course, Christine Lagarde was recently in charge of the International Monetary Fund, so you can see how far these tentacles reach. And that is exactly the term I would use, the tentacles of the banking system reaching into every pocket on this planet. Anyway, you can go through this yourself at your leisure, and you will see that all of these people have combined together to conspire against you and make the bank work against your best interests and in their best interests in the most coordinated way that you can imagine. And all of this gang can influence all of the names that are not on this list. They can influence all of the countries that are not on this list, just with financial pressure, sanctions and that kind of stuff. So these people pretty well control the financial system across the world. And so show this to your friends and you can prove your point. So this is not any kind of theory. It is the reality of the situation. They all knew what was going on. They all knew what was going on. So, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, they are all in cahoots with each other. And that old saying, birds of a feather flock together. And so they know what they're doing. They've studied the theory. They know the history. And they knew what the result was. So when anyone tries to tell you, any politician tries to tell you that this inflation and this high interest rate policy is just something that they're doing to tackle inflation, when actually, the government is the body that created the inflation in the first place by printing so much money to cover COVID expenses. We increased our debt by 50% in Canada. We conjured up 50% more of our debt out of thin air and just spent it on every direction you can think of and flooded the market. And of course, they're saying now that, well, the reason we put up interest rates is because, inflation is high and it's a hot economy. We have to cool this economy down. No, it's not a hot economy. It's people got a whole bunch of extra dough in their pockets and they went out and spent it. They injected that money directly back into the system. And so raising interest rates is the worst thing that they could have done at this particular time. And the one thing that they don't seem to recognize that they also caused through the lockdowns is scarcity inflation, that we broke the supply chains. Okay, so scarcity inflation is when there is too much money chasing too few goods. So, of course, people who manufacture, when they're facing inflation, they put up prices. And of course, there is intermittent price gouging. I'm sure there are companies and corporations. We've been doing some building this year, and boy, oh boy, the cost of building materials is absolutely staggering. And I, for the life of me, can't see any reason for it there will be some increase because of gas prices increasing, etc., but some of this is above and beyond the pale. So there is definitely some price gouging going on out there, but we've got the two worst kinds of inflation. So the Parliamentary Budgetary Office is now talking 2029 to 2030 for this to resolve itself. So don't let anybody tell you around the world that this is just the ups and downs of economic times. No. This was a coordinated effort and the outcome was known. And where we go from here, where we go from here is anybody's guess. This has tipped the apple cart so far over on its side. And of course, all of these incredibly stringent rules that were put in place by the banking institutions, you have an NSF to check, bounce to check. It's like a $75 fee now to do that. And when everyone has got automatic deposits and direct debits coming out of their account, you can just see if there is any hiccup. If there's any hiccup in your income flow, you are suddenly going to be paying, between $60 and $75 per missed item, and the banks will represent those unpaid items 3 times, I think it is. Okay, so each bounced item could cost you, $150 to $200. That's unbelievable. Okay, so all of this is going to come back and start haunting people, and I think some of the changes that we've made are going to be disastrous, and I think you're actually going to see a strange reversal in a clamoring for cash, because if you have your paycheck directly deposited into the bank and you have direct debits coming out, you will find, because those debit systems work so quickly, your paycheck will just do this. It will just skim your account, and you'll go down there and you go try to get some cash for food. It won't be there. So what I'm suggesting to people, if you can, either get your company to pay you by check, if you can, or go back to the old-fashioned way, or you make sure that when your check is deposited in the bank, you grab that money in cash. Okay, so that you control your cash flow. Now, I did this when we went through COVID. I opened up a second bank account, and I separated them so that if there was any issues, I could maintain, I would have one bank account that was just completely isolated and had money in there to cover in case something happened with the other account. Okay, because I knew that when we were getting the COVID payments, I knew we were going in, certainly I was going into tough times, because it nowhere near covered my outgoing expenses every month. And so I wanted to make sure that I controlled my cash flow, not the bank and the money that automatically came out of my account. Okay, so you might want to bear that in mind and just protect yourself, because this could be very, very tenuous for people. This could be a very difficult situation if you get into that and you lose control of your cash flow, because we all know that there are other things, other expenses that come up, to run a household, to run your life, etc., etc. And so be aware of that and protect yourself a little bit. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know what an absolute collusion has taken place here, and don't get buffaloed by anyone telling you that there are other reasons for this. So what these heads of banks are thinking, I am not quite sure. Why they've completely lost their memory, I cannot for the life of me fathom. Maybe it's got something to do with the Great Reset. We will have to find out. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant afternoon, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Take care. Bye.